Demystifying Gypsy Jazz Guitar Strings. Hello, I'm Michael from Gypsy Jazz Australia. My website is www.gypsyjazz.com.au, and this video is part of a series of videos I'm putting together, which is a beginner's guide to Gypsy Jazz, just to help people navigate their early stages of getting into this style of music. I've been playing for a year and a half now and very enthusiastic and have a lot of fun. I've actually set up a shop selling Gypsy Jazz guitars and picks in Australia. But I did find when I was starting off, it was a little bit difficult to navigate through the differences between Gypsy Jazz and other styles of guitar. So I'm just trying to make that journey a little bit easier for other people and hopefully encourage more people to get in and start playing and start jamming with other people. I would imagine if you're at the stage at the moment where you are looking at Gypsy Jazz Guitar Strings, you probably have an understanding about what a Gypsy Jazz guitar is, but the short answer is it's the style of guitar that Django Reinhardt was playing back in the 1930s and 1940s. He was the founder of Gypsy Jazz or Manouche guitar back then. And the style of guitar is a Selmer Macaferi guitar, which was made by the Selmer Music Company. And Selmer back in the day did commission the Savarez company to make Gypsy Jazz guitar strings, to come up with a style that would be suitable for the type of instrument they were making. So I am concentrating on the Argentine string, which is their brand of Gypsy Jazz strings today, but there's lots of brands, and I would encourage you to, as part of your journey, to go out and try a few and see which ones work best for you. It's often a bit of a choice of an individual choice, but certainly I think internationally the Savarez Argentine strings are probably the most commonly used guitar string in the Gypsy Jazz community. But like I say, it's worth trying some others along the way. But being the biggest seller, I thought these would probably be the ones I could concentrate on, and probably the ones I'd encourage you to try initially, just while you're finding your feet. There's a couple of big differences between these strings and perhaps the strings you're used to in other styles of guitar. The big one is that they have two types of ends. Now, I found this really confusing at the beginning, didn't understand it. But if you're having a look at the tailpiece of a Gypsy Jazz guitar, there's these toggles as part that the strings connect to onto the tailpiece, and they both have a hole through the middle of it, and then they also have an area there where you can loop the string over. So these strings have two different types of ends. There's a ball end, and then there's a loop end. It took me forever to figure out how all that worked, and I didn't realize there was a hole going through the middle. And I was very much used to sticking, the ball down the hole and putting a peg into my beautiful Martin and the other type of guitars that he was playing before I got into Gypsy Jazz. So I'll show you those. So you'd be very much used to a ball end, I would imagine, if you're coming from another style of music. But the loop end has this style of thing, which you just basically put over the toggle at the end of the guitar. Now, if you're looking at the styles, I think as far as sounds go, in my experience, and certainly as a beginner, you're probably not going to notice much difference between a ball end or a loop end. Sometimes the loop ends are a little bit more popular, there's favourable in the fact that you don't actually have to loosen. You can only loosen the guitar strings off, and then you can pull the loop off. You don't have to completely move it. Then kind of makes it easier to unwind the string at the other end. So I guess just to save a little bit of time in changing the guitar string, that does make it easy, because obviously with the ball ends, you have to completely unwind the guitar or cut it halfway down and then unwind it here and then pull it through. But that's probably the main difference. And to be honest, with the loop ends, I sometimes find them a little bit difficult to get on and off, because by the time they've been on the guitar for a while, they do tend to tighten and stretch over the toggle, which then can make it, you've got to get it fairly soft and pry it off a little bit anyway. So kind of much of a muchness as far as I'm concerned, but I know some players do prefer the loop end for that reason. Now, the other thing to discuss with the strings is that they generally will come in 2 gauges, and they are very light strings compared to some of the strings you may have played on steel strings before. Now today I am discussing purely steel strings. There are Gypsy Jazz guitars that do have nylon strings, but I'm not so common. I thought I'd stick with, probably as a beginner, what we're generally going to be finding in the marketplace. So they describe the strings, as they do in other styles of guitar, as the size of the small E string is generally, if you're talking to another player, what they will talk about. So the Savarez or the Argentine strings, they do come in 2 sizes. So one is a .011 and one is a .010. So the 010 is the thinner string and the 011 is the slightly thicker string. And when I say that, you're talking about 0.001 of a difference. And then those strings for all the different grades of the string sets that you will buy will just go up in a 0.001 size comparatively to the other ones all the way up, if that makes sense. As far as the sounds goes, I mean, again, I would encourage you to sort of try both. You know, people sort of say, well, the shredders all play 0.011, you know, size guitar strings, you know, and that sort of thing. I find them both sort of work very well, and it sort of depends on what you're playing, what sort of type of sound you're wanting to get from your instruments, if that makes sense. So I do hope that helps a little bit. The other thing to discuss is I found the labeling with these Argentine strings just to be a bit of a minefield, and it kind of didn't make sense to me. So they have 1510s and then they have 1610s. Now to me that would be discussing the size of the string, but it's not. The 1510s are the loop end and the 1610s are the ball end. And then to differentiate with the size, they have the label MF. So the MF strings are the 0.011 size, and the ones without any MF, to just straight with the number and nothing else, are the 0.010. I know, that's confusing, doesn't make any sense to me. So the way I kind of remembered it, being a little bit dyslexic, was that the MF apparently might be an acronym, nobody's really sure, for something in French that describes a slightly larger string. The other one they say is that perhaps it could stand for Machiavelli, which and perhaps that could be the size of string that the Machiavelli was recommending back in the day. Who knows? But that did help me remember that MF is the size, and then the numbers 1510 and the 1610 refer to the ends, either a ball end or a loop end, if that makes sense. I hope that helps you. I found the whole thing a bit of a minefield. And it did take me a bit of working out, and even trying to enter this stuff on my website as you know, selling guitar strings. It took me forever because I just kept getting it mixed up because it just doesn't kind of make sense. But anyway, good luck with your journey. I hope that helps you with the guitar strings, and I do look forward to perhaps meeting you down the track and getting to play together sometime. All the best now. Thank you.